In this video, I want to discuss why a telephoto zoom lens is perfect for landscape photography, all the while I use it to capture some dramatic and beautiful minimal photos among the hills of Tuscany. So we have arrived here at Poggio Cavalli, and this is another very beautiful minimalist photo, yet I'm filling the frame. As you can see here, we have beautiful morning colors. We have the house here, row of trees, and then we have the sunrise here hitting these clouds right there. The camera, I have it right now on intervalometer just so that I can talk to you guys, but else it's ISO 100 f11 just to get a sharp aperture, and it gives me right now a shutter speed of 1/6 of a second. It's actually the first time that I'm shooting from down here. I do have a drone photo from here, but this is the first time I actually have this specific composition in my main camera, and it's a beautiful morning to get that. It's always fun when you get on a location like this in the morning. You're like, how are the clouds moving? Are they moving in our direction? Do we want it? Is it beneficial? How do we angle ourselves relative to what is going to happen in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour? And this was the obvious shooting location right now. Just like looking around and having that beautiful light there on the underside of the clouds. A little bit of mist in the air, but I don't think I'll be able to benefit that much from it. However, absolutely gorgeous. Some landscape photography scenes and compositions simply just work better with a telephoto zoom lens or a standard zoom for that matter. That's why I always try to cover the focal range from 16mm to optimally 400mm when I'm traveling for landscape photography. Specifically in Tuscany, I find that my photos are predominantly taken with the longer focal lengths. Yes, there are definitely options for the wide angle, but due to the calmer and less dramatic landscapes, I find that most scenes lend themselves best to the standard and telephoto range. Focal lengths and how to benefit from them is something I cover in my ebook on composition and landscape photography that you can get via the link in the description of the video. So we made it to this beautiful, beautiful flower field, and I also visited this place last year, but we had completely different conditions. Last year we had big stormy gray clouds with texture in them. This year we have a few fluffy white clouds on a blue sky. However, the flowers this year are way better, and the greens on the hills are absolutely stunning. And then we have this lone tree right there in the middle that is just the subject of the scene. What I really enjoy is this play with colors between the blue sky with the wispy clouds, the green middle, and then the yellow bottom with these flowers. So what I'm working on is generally that I simply just try to frame the photo, whereas I have the little tree slightly off center to the right, simply just to balance the photo and the lines of the photo. And then I play around with the foreground. I either try to get some flowers in to break those greens right there, or simply just have a clean yellow foreground with a clean line right there. And it's fun to try a little bit of everything here. There's plenty of opportunity to experiment. On top of that, I have also put on the polarizing filter. It really helps to bring out the blues and the greens in the scene, darken down the sky, so this sunlit scene just pops even more. Looks absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, I'm also shooting at f7.1. ISO 100 gives me a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. And with that open aperture, the foreground is a little bit out of focus, and it just looks lovely. And admittedly, this is not a scene you would want to focus stack anyway, because it would just take like 20 photos at f16 to get everything in focus when you're shooting at like 60mm and you're this close to the foreground. Here are the photos that I decided to finish. Besides the strong color contrast between the layers of the scene, the introduction of the flowers also help create a perception of depth in the photo. Let me know down in the comments which one you like the best. However, unlike the wide angle, it can be notoriously hard, if not impossible, to get both the immediate foreground and background in focus, but it is not always necessary to do so. In another location, the famous Podea Belvedere, I used the same technique to create depth by introducing different foregrounds. The scene is already really beautiful by having the house in the foreground, as the rolling hills behind it deliver plenty of depth. But I do generally find that I like to have an additional layer of landscape in the foreground for this scene. Likewise, at the famous Boccolano, with the winding road and cypress trees leading up to the farmhouse, I like to introduce some foreground interest. This year the fields in front were full of these red flowers that I also decided to throw out of focus by opening up my aperture to f4.5. If the flowers had been in focus, I personally find them to be rather messy and distracting. You can also learn much more about depth via my composition ebook. It's super easy to read with minimal text and has loads of examples as for you to get to the point fast. As mentioned, you can get it, the free light version and the follow-up with even more compositional tools, down in the description of the video. So we are right now driving around in the Tuscan fields here and doing some running and gunning. So we are doing a lot of stops and just picking out different subjects in the landscape. Right now I found a beautiful minimalist photo, which is just like right out there with a couple of lone trees, a little house, and then some cypress trees along a ridge. Just above it, we have a very dramatic bluish grayish cloud with a little bit of rain underneath. Looks quite nice. And it really makes that little farmhouse and the cypress trees stand out. And then underneath we have these beautiful rolling hills with the lone trees. Looks really, really nice. So right now I have a vertical composition settings wise f13, which is really good with a 50 to 400 millimeter lens. ISO 100, of course, to get a clean shot. That gives me a shutter speed right now 1/8 of a second. And as you can see here, I actually have a shutter delay of 5 seconds just to be 100% certain that nothing touches the camera and there's no vibration. I will also try a horizontal version just to both get the vertical and horizontal. It's always good to have a little bit of everything when you do a photo like this here. But yeah, nice minimal long lens photo. What a telephoto zoom lens is especially good for is this run and gunning technique, where you just drive around and react to what you see and pick out details in the landscapes. It's something we did quite a lot on this workshop, and with the telephoto lens it was just about zooming in, finding the optimal focal length and composition, and then firing off. One of the many photos I got during one of these sessions I like extra much is this moody minimal photo with the dark clouds and dappled light that hits the farmhouse and fields in front of it. And if you fancy going to Tuscany on your own, I'd highly recommend getting a car. It just opens up your possibilities for getting around much easier. And of course, be sure to get my digital landscape photography map, which you can easily integrate with Google Maps. I have placed the iconic locations and a few more on it. There's a link to that one too down in the description of the video. So we have come down to a lower viewpoint, and right now we were photographing up here and we have this downpour. And then we have like a line of trees with a little farmhouse, and then we have the light from the sunset just lighting it up. It did not look as if we would get anything this evening, but we're getting something. It looks so good. Absolutely stunning. So even over here, it's not what I'm shooting here, but here you get like this shadow from this cloud, and then just the sun blowing up there. Looks absolutely incredible. The light really exploded for a very short while, and we tried to change position without any success as the light dissipated fast. But considering what we captured, I don't think we can complain. So it is morning and we are out photographing more minimalist long lens photography. Right now I'm photographing towards a cluster of cypress trees that look absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite subjects I found here in Tuscany. I got a really nice shot last year with fog all the way around and a big cloud behind it. Today it's way more moody. We're photographing here during sunrise for a change, and we have a little bit slither of color behind the trees, and then we have some moody clouds above. But we also have these red flowers, the clovers here in front. I think it's clovers, some kind of clover. Red flower. And I have a composition that looks something like this here. I'm playing a little bit around with the composition, sometimes a little bit more sky, less flowers, sometimes more flowers, less sky. And as you can see, I have the setting ISO 100, f13 gives me right now a shutter speed of 1/5 of a second. And I'm slightly underexposing just to make sure that I don't blow those highlights behind the trees. But this here looks really, really nice. Loads of layers. We also have a lone tree on a hill over there. And that tree can also include some of these flowers here just underneath it. So 2 really great minimalist telephoto photos. And the final reason to use a telephoto lens for landscape photography is just how easy it is to create that perspective compression effect, where it looks like the foreground, midground and background are closer to each other than they really are. Exactly what I benefited from with these photos. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to join Sam and I in Tuscany in 2025, there is a link to my workshop along with the editing course, my maps and composition ebooks down in the description of the video. See you next time.